and welcome to this Tuesday edition of The Chiefs. With us, of course, are Ana Marie Pamintuan, the editor-in-chief of the Philippine Star, and coming on, there's Lucy, and Lucy Cruz Valdez, the head of News 5. Ladies, good evening.
Hi,
Robbie Alampay will
good
not be with
evening.
us tonight.
Hello, Ed. Hi, Ami. Okay. Yeah.
Wait,
So-
what's the big story today?
Inihintay
Well,
pa natin yung EO dun sa yung
Sa
bagong
BBB.
task force.
Sa BBB.
Another BBB. Saka yung state of calamity. Baka
State of
hindi
calamity
natin
for Luzon.
magsasalita ngayon eh.
It's
For
still pending.
Yeah, baka magsalita siya, hindi pa sigurado ngayong gabi.
Yeah, I
yeah.
think you're still going through the numbers to see if we have enough money for a state of calamity, because that means money going out again.
Oo nga eh.
Mhm.
And then,
Yeah.
of course, yung excitement over the Moderna vaccine, ano? Hindi na daw kailangan
94.5 at hindi na kailangan ng
super,
negative 70.
Negative 70.
Negative 20 na lang.
saka mas mura.
Achievable daw.
Mas
Yeah.
mura
Yeah.
siya.
Yung negative 20 is your typical medical freezer.
Yes. Kahit daw regular, yung regular medical freezer.
Medical freezer. Kasi yung regular household freezers nasa negative 6 lang to negative 10 lang yun eh.
Oo, 6-7 lang yun eh. Yeah.
Yung medical freezer pa rin yung kailangan mo for negative 40, 20,
Kaya
40.
maano na siya, medyo madali-dali na, no? Saka China,
It's way more achievable than negative 70.
nag-offer ang China, sila daw magpo-provide ng cold chain equipment.
Di ba? Ang bilis nila, no?
Mabilis
Kasi
sila.
yung negative 70, they say yung negative 70 is equivalent to yung lamig dun sa Antarctica. So you may as well imagine yourself with the penguins.
So, grabe. Yeah.
At least dumadami na yung vaccine, di ba?
Yeah, maraming choices.
Yes.
Hindi,
Ng
ang
candidates,
tanong ay umaaga ba ang supply dito? Yan ang
Hindi,
tanong.
Hindi.
Kahit na marami ng choices. Oh.
Diba? Umiksi yung pila kasi mas marami nang available. Diba?
Yeah.
Kaya,
But remember kasi,
Pero nag-overpurchase ang US eh.
The US
diba?
government made advanced purchases
Yes.
to help in the development of these vaccines. So meron
Grabe yung buffer nila eh.
nakuha na nila yung market
Oo,
bago
kinorder
pa
eh.
ma-create yung
pero
supply.
sobra pa rin niya. Kung tig 1.2 billion yung dalawang pharma na yon, yung biotech sa yung pharma.
Yeah.
Sobra pa rin sa kanila yun.
Yeah.
Konti lang naman sila.
Hintay ko na sa Lazada.
Ha? Naghanap nga kami.
Mga fake yan, no? Make sure
Ingat
it's
nga kayo.
authentic.
Ingat kayo dun sa ganun. Kasi marami binibenta na mga ganung supplements na hindi dumadaan ng FDA.
Yeah.
Ikaw ang unang order nun.
Sige ka na.
E-commerce yan eh. And pag pinag-uusapan natin, anong kahihinat na ng e-learning because of this, because of all these typhoons, bagsak lahat ng yung wifi, yung electricity, walang pagdadaanan yung distance learning. Siguro, pasok na natin yung guest natin kung anong kahihinat na.
Cagayan, sa Alcala.
That's the second guest you're talking about.
Ganun ba?
Our first guest is a mayor of Cagayan. The mayor of
naman yung
Alcala.
schedule ng aking
Well, our first guest is a first-time mayor of a town in Cagayan. That's Alcala. It's actually a town between Tuguegarao and Apari, yung dulo na ng Cagayan. Now we're talking about Alcala Cagayan Mayor Cristina Antonio. Mayor Antonio, good evening po and welcome to the Chiefs.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Good evening, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you po for joining us. I was reading with interest an article or a piece that you wrote for Rappler. I think that came out yesterday or the other day. And you talked about all the interventions that you have already put in place since that devastating flood in December last year. You're talking about convincing farmers to shift from corn to agroforestry. To help in restocking the trees around your town. As well, you talked about putting up a green wall between the river and communities. And all these are I suppose very good innovations helped by Dr. Siringan, who happened to be my geology teacher in UP.
Yes.
But
all
I
these
bring this up because
interventions.
Opo. But I also do want to ask, do you think that these interventions, I know that you said that these interventions naunahan nitong Ulysses eh. I mean, you wanted them to be well put in place already, pero naunahan pa ng Ulysses. But I'm wondering if by any chance they help to mitigate the impact of Ulysses.
That is the result of the study. The LGU commissioned Dr. Fernando Siringan to conduct this study, and my insight, I mean, after reading the study, the final study, is that flooding here in Alcala and the whole of Cagayan Valley is a complex problem.
Mhm.
The cause cannot be attributed to just one cause, but it really is a confluence of factors, and the study outlines all these problems, and it also proposes with these recommendations, which are very sound. I have complete trust in our Filipino scientists, particularly Dr. Fernando Siringan, who used to be the former director of the UP Marine Science Institute.
Mhm.
And based on the way the study explains the causes of the flooding, the different factors that contribute to flooding, and also the combination of interventions needed, I do believe that it will mitigate flooding. I do not have. I do not think that it will completely eradicate flooding,
Of course.
but at least we're doing something about it. Some
Mhm.
things, interventions that are based on sound science. And I am a lawyer. I am not. I only have general knowledge about climate change and flood mitigation, and so the most logical thing for us is to turn to our scientists to ask them, and so that is
Mhm.
what we did, and we have started to implement some of the recommendations of the study. Of course, these interventions are long term. We understand that,
Yes, of course.
but at least we've started, and it helps us because it's better than doing nothing.
Yes, yes, yes.
We
But Mayor, I
helpless. We
suppose
cannot say that
yes, Mayor, but I suppose it
yes.
would also help if you get other LGUs around you to also take a second look at what they're doing and do things the way you're doing them now. Because while you may do things right in Alcala, if other towns upstream don't do the same things, sa inyo pa rin po babagsak ang problema.
Yes, tama po yun. I have started talking with some of our leaders here in Cagayan. There are plans to plant trees, lots of trees, because that's part of the recommendation. But please understand that we were able to get a copy of the final study only this October. The study having been conducted mula nung Hulyo hanggang Setyembre. It was a 3-month study, marami pong mga field surveys na ginawa, at yun pong presentasyon ng final study only occurred this October.
Okay.
So, maikling-ikli lang panahon pa lamang na hawak namin itong pag-aaral na ito.
Mayor,
At
ano pong mga highlights ng ano po ang mga highlights ng pag-aaral na yan in terms of the infrastructure? Well, hindi yon, no, kundi yung structure siguro ng Cagayan River. I understand meron siyang mga bottlenecks and
Mhm.
flashpoints, no, kung saan nagko-converge ang flow ng tubig at umaapaw at kayo ang tinutumbok, no? At anong infrastruktura ang maaari siguro ito? Ano hong mga highlights nun bukod sa structure and infrastructure related points, pati na po yung sa lifestyle na sinasabi ninyo na dapat din nating bigyang pansin?
Unang-una po, pinaliwanag doon sa pag-aaral ni Dr. Fernando Siringa, iba ang sitwasyon ng Ilog Cagayan dito sa Alcala. From a width of 400 meters, ay kumikipot ito. There is a point of action here in Alcala, nagiging 180 meters na lamang. Kung kaya't meron talagang bottleneck.
Yes.
At kung meron pong pag-release ng Magat Dam ng tubig, o kaya meron pong bagyo at marami pong ipos ang ulan, ay talagang aapaw dahil po dito sa constriction na ito. At ang kanyang isang rekomendasyon, isa sa mga pangunahing rekomendasyon ay yung pagpapaluwang, yung river channel widening dito po sa bayan ng Alcala all the way to 2 towns downstream, yun pong Lalo. So malaking tulong po ito dahil kung mapapansin po ninyo, ang pagbaha ay mula dito sa Alcala at upstream lamang dahil po na-stuck, nagiging stagnant ang water dito sa bayan ng Alcala, dito sa point of constriction. So isa po 'yon na rekomendasyon.
Yes.
Ang isa pa pong rekomendasyon ay
feasible po ba 'yon? Feasible po ba 'yon? Kasi kanina sa report ni Ed, no, yung Las Piñas na sana tinayo rin noon. Ngayon po ba, kung gagawin po halimbawa yung pagpapaluwag na yon, no, marami po bang tatabaan na mga kabahayan? Marami po bang apektado or pwede pa? How feasible would that be?
Ang tiningnan na po namin pagkatapos rekomendasyon na iyon, particular na rekomendasyon, yun pong cost, kung ano po yung kakailanganin na pondo para ipatupad ito. At ito na po yung ginawa ng program of work sa tulong ng ating mga engineers, umaabot ng 250 million at least doon sa Alcala segment. Malaking tulong na po ito.
Okay.
Kung po itong amount na ito, 250 million compared to all the damages ng napakaraming pagbaha nitong napakaraming taon na ang nakalipas, napakaliit na bagay po ng amount na ito. Para lang po maintindihan ng lahat, dito po sa bayan ng Alcala, dito po sa pagbaha ngayon, ang damage po sa crops ay umaabot na ng 52 million. Ang damage po sa infrastructure, roads lamang po, assessment 5 million. Hindi po ma-compute pa yung ilang mga damage sa mga bahay kasi hindi pa konsolidado yung totally damaged and partially damaged houses. Kung kaya't kung ikukumpara po yung solusyon at yung kailangan na ilabas na pondo para ipatupad ang para sa kung ano yung damage, kung lagi at laging may baha at walang gagawin, mas malaki po talaga yung danyos.
Right.
At
yeah. So it's really worth it, no? Yeah, kung ituloy.
Yes,
okay, so yun, Mayor, so that's one, no? Ano pa po yung mga sinabi nung pag-aaral, nung study, na pwedeng gawin immediately?
Ang sinabi pa po ay yung pagsasagawa ng secondary channel, particular dito sa isa pang ilog, Pared River, because here in Alcala, Pared River, which is a tributary of the Cagayan River, meets the big river. Kailangan ng secondary channel dito at pagtatanim ng vegetation shield na 30 meters wide, which will form a protective belt along the riverbanks. Nang sa gayon ay maprotektahan ang community dahil po sa ngayon meron po kaming isang barangay Pagbangkeruan na kinakain na po ng ilog, yun pong mismo komunidad. Kung kaya kagyat po itong trabaho na ito. At ito, marami pong mga rekomendasyon, hindi lang po at that point of Pared River. Yun pong pag-aaral na ginawa, masusing pag-aaral na ginawa ni Dr. Siringan ay minapa niya yung buong Pared River, the whole length. Ganon din po yung Cagayan River, the whole length, at least here in Alcala. At very specific, tailor-made po. Sinabi kong sa puntong ito, sa bahaging ito, hindi pwedeng galawin. Sa bahaging ito, kailangan galawin. Sa bahaging ito, kailangan tapisan. Sa bahaging ito, kailangan na tanggalan ng graba, ng sediments, pero hanggang anong level lamang. Ganun po yung kasinop ng pag-aaral na isinagawa ng ating mga scientists.
Mayor, interesado ako dun sa sinabi niyong green wall. That's along the Cagayan River ba? Saka, how many trees are we talking about? Kasi si DENR Secretary Roy Simato, he was suggesting, I think about 20 million trees daw na kailangan. Is that the same study? Is it based on the same study? Na, saka, gaano kalaking area are we talking about? Yung layo dun sa river, saka gaano siya kalapan, going inland, kung magkakaroon kayo ng green wall.
Sa ngayon po ay kino-compute pa po natin yung exact area, yung coverage. Dahil kailangan pong i-survey yung actual na pagtatamnan ng mga punong kahoy, native tree, at ito pong pwesto ng 30-meter na vegetation shield, lang protective belt or green wall. Kailangan pong ilapat, kailangan ng survey. Pagdating naman po doon sa nasabi ni Secretary Simatu, hindi po yata base sa parehong pag-aaral. Please understand that we were able to get a copy of the final study only this October. At between the research and the study and the maps na nakalagay po doon kung saan naka-linya, naka-indicate kung ano yung tatamnan, ano yung tatamnan, kailangan po yung ilapat sa talagang actual na kalupaan sa pamamagitan ng survey. Pero syempre po, pag nakuha na natin yung area na yon, at yung total areas ng ganun po yung gagawin na intervention, i-compute din po natin yung tree spacing, i-compute po din natin kung ilang mga rows or hedges.
Ano bang klase siyang puno? May nabanggit na ba? Ano bang klaseng puno yung iniisip nyo? Kasi meron ding mga hindi angkop near the rivers, no? Ano ba yung iniisip nyo? Yung fast growing ba? Yung mga hardwood? Ano ba yun?
Ang mungkahi po talaga ay mga native trees. Dahil po ang ating mga native trees ang meron talagang kakayanan na mag-adapt sa mga matutubig na lugar. Bahagi din po kasi kami ng Philippine Native Tree Enthusiasts, and we are passionate advocates of native trees. At sana po yun po ang pagtuunan din ng ating DNR na sa halip na fast-growing, na exotic tulad ng Alcala, mahogany, ng Gimelina.
Yeah.
Ay sana native trees. And ang native trees po kasi they encourage biodiversity compared with exotic trees na tawag na fast-growing na.
Ano po example ng native trees? Anong example ng native trees?
Para po sa mga matutubig na lugar, ang maaari po ay bangkal, tibig, putat, bitaog, yun pong mga beach forest trees. Yung
Ay, ko lang marinig yung mga pangalang yan. Grabe.
Marami sa Makati yan.
Ano ba yun?
Mga kalye sa Makati yan no? Yung mga bangkal. Pero walang putak doon, no?
yung native trees enthusiast, may Facebook page yan di ba, ma'am? Kasama ba kayo? Kasi misis ko kasama dyan
Okay. Pero yes, no? Tama, dapat nga native trees. Pero mas na-curious ako doon sa sinabi nyo na lifestyle change and adjusting ang kailangan.
Kasi na mahirap
Anong dapat matutunan ng ordinaryong mamamayan na nakatira dyan?
Dito po kasi sa Alcala, karamihan po sa aming mga kababayan ay mga magsasaka. At ang pangunahing crops ay palay at mais, particular yellow corn. Nakakalungkot dahil pati po yung ating mga kabundukan, even the slopes, the hills, the watershed areas, ay yellow corn ang tinatanim. At kung yellow corn kasi ang tinatanim, gagamitan po yan ng tinatawag na herbicide. At ang herbicide po, pinapatay niya lahat ng vegetation. At syempre, kalaban na po ng ating mga punong kahoy ay hindi lang illegal logging, although that is also a major concern. It's really agriculture and the bad agricultural practices. Dahil nga po, kinakain ng agrikultura, specifically yellow corn farming, ang mga bulubundukin na dapat ay puno ang nakatanim ng mga watershed areas. So kapag nandiyan na ang ulan, ang baha, nahulog ang tubig doon sa watershed areas, naghahalo ang tubig at sediment at lupa. Kung kaya't napunta sa mga sa mga streams,
Oo.
sa Parend River, Twin River. In fact, yun pong baha, yung tubig baha dito sa amin ngayon, sa Lambak, Cagayan, it's not just pure water. Mix po siya ng water and sediment. Kung kaya talagang aapaw dahil hindi lang siya tubig na dumadaloy, ngunit may kahalo. Kung kaya
Correct.
nagsisense ng sediment sa baba, sa riverbed,
Oo.
tapos sa taas may tubig. So talagang aapaw po talaga.
Yes, yes.
Sinisisi pa ang magandang ngayon. Pero ang karanasan po namin dito sa Alcala, hindi pa nagre-release ang Magat Dam at mataas ng tubig. Dala ng pag-ulan ng 3 previous na bagyo sa Central Luzon.
Yes.
At hindi lang po yun, galing din sa bulubundukin. The water came from all directions, not just Magat Dam.
Yes, yes.
So yun,
Ma'am, but as far as lessons yes, ma'am. But as far as lessons learned are concerned, kasi I would suppose that a lot of LGUs would also want to know how you're able to convince people to change the way they do things, change habits. For example, even changing crops is difficult for most people. How are you as an LGU official able to do it? How do you do it? Best practices po.
we thought it was going to be difficult, but when we dialogued with the farmers and we explained, what we did was we asked them to just observe what has been happening the past years with respect to flood. Marami pong baradong mga streams at rivers, laging baha. At kinumbinsi po namin sila na mag-shift na lang sa fruit trees, sa agroforestry, tapos yung perimeter ay mga native forest trees. At syempre, ang concern nila ay kabuhayan. At binigyan po namin sila ng disturbance fee. Bawat ektarya po ng lot owners, cultivators na mais, yellow corn ang tinatanim ay nabigyan po ng LGU ng 20,000 pesos bilang paunang bayad sa kanilang pagkakaistorbo dahil syempre pangkabuhayan po nila yon. Plus ang LGU po ang nag-provide ng seedlings ng fruit trees at seedlings. And then we are also in partnership now with the Cagayan State University so that we can provide training so that habang inaantay po ang mga fruit trees na tumubo, because it'll take some years, mag-intercrop po ng mga high-value crops na hindi ginagamitan ng herbicide like pineapple, ginger, root crops, kamote. So ang kinakailangan lamang po ay yung pagpapaliwanag kung bakit mahalaga, ano yung relasyon ng ginagawang hakbang sa aktual na buhay ng mga tao, at pakikipag-usap po sa kanila sa paraan na yung dialogue ay yung totoo, hindi dumbed down. Ang tao nakakaintindi ng agham.
Naman ako naniniwala rin ako dyan. Yeah. Kailangan na iba-intindi.
Mas tagos pa nga dahil kung ano po ang sinasabi ng siyensya at ng agham, nakikita po ng ordinaryong tao sa dito sa Alcala, nako-connect nila, napapagtagpi-tagpi nila yung kanilang mga obserbasyon ay nabibigyan lamang ng paliwanag dahil kinakausap po sila at pinapaliwanag kung ano yung mga scientific explanations. So, naiintindihan ko with the help, with the support of the LGU, madali pong kausapin ng mga tao. Wala po kaming na-encounter na resistance. And we've been doing this. We have 12 irrigation dams. Lahat po yun may watershed areas. Natapos na po namin ang ganitong proseso sa Siam. Malaking Siam na irrigation watershed areas. Ang combined area po ng watershed areas na ito ay 300 hectares. So can you just imagine if all these hectares puno ng punong kahoy, native trees as windbreaks doon sa perimeter, and then agroforestry, it's making the land productive.
Yes.
Maitatawid po ng mga tao. And the truth is, ang yellow corn farming, it's not good anymore for income. Dahil
okay.
Hindi na po.
Hindi na rin siya marketable,
And
Oo.
Hindi na
it
po.
turns the soil sandy eh. So mas madaling
Exactly.
mag-erode yung lupa with
Opo.
corn crops eh.
Kung kaya't
Anyway,
mababa na ang yield, tapos mababa din naman ang presyo sa merkado dahil there's a
Yeah.
glut every time it's harvest time. So madali pong makumbinsi ang mga tao.
okay. Maraming
Alright.
salamat po and
Thank
best
you,
of luck po
Mayor.
sa inyong rehabilitation and
Maraming
reconstruction.
salamat po.
Mayor Cristina Antonio ng Alcala. Maraming salamat po, Mayor. Ingat po.
Thank you.
Maraming salamat. Good evening.
We will just pause for a break, so please stay with us.
Welcome back to the Chiefs. We're now in the final stage of our conversation. And now joining us is Attorney Cindy Benitez-Jaro, Executive Director of the Commission on Higher Education. Good evening, Attorney.
Hi, good evening po. Good evening, Ma'am Annie.
Yes.
And good evening to
Good
Ms.
evening, Attorney.
Chi and Sir Ed also.
Hi, Attorney.
Napaka-segue ko kanina. But anyway, we're talking about the typhoons and floods and the people calling for an academic freeze. I know it has been rejected by DOTCHED, pero linawin lang natin, merong nuancing yung rejection na yun. Ano? I think you're allowing local governments and individual universities ba to decide kung magkakaroon nga ng matagalang suspension ng classes as a result of the typhoons and floods.
Opo. So, in the previous interviews of the CHED chair, he already manifested na yun na nga, no to the zone-wide academic break for several reasons. One is that different LGUs are situated differently. We understand po and we empathize, of course, to our LGUs, to our students, to the parents of our students who are experiencing the effects of this typhoon. But yun na nga po, yung Luzon-wide academic freeze or academic break should be based also on the situations on the ground. What we're saying or what Ched Chair Popo is saying is that yung mga LGUs po kasi they have the authority to pronounce a suspension po of classes in case there are disasters or typhoons. On the part of our HCIs naman po, actually the commission has already given them leniency in extending their academic year or in giving leniency in the giving of grades of their students so that of course they can also have flexibility in dealing with situations like this.
So yung ma'am, of course, yun, as usual, University of the Philippines, faculty, marami sa kanilang pumirma eh. na yun na nga, yung academic freeze, na medyo matagal-tagal yun, ha?
Actually, tinapos na nila yung first SEM.
Yes.
They've decided na tatapusin na nila ngayon.
Of course,
so,
independent republic yun, kaya lang.
Yeah.
Any reason to not go to school?
Pero anong reaction?
Ano ba ang mga nagiging, bakit nga ba, actually hindi ko pa maintindihan talaga kung bakit kailangan gawin yon, Attorney Benitez. Can you give us an insight as to why academicians and students are calling for an academic freeze at this time?
Actually, hindi pa naman po, kasi I think what they did was to request the BOR or their admin officials to call for an academic break. Based on their petition, yun na nga po, the onslaught of the typhoon, and together with this pandemic, students should be afforded opportunity to recover. Actually, for transparency, I am also a student now of UP. I am having a doctorate.
Pumirma ba kayo doon?
Pero
Sa kayo sa mga pumirma na dapat tapusin at ipasa na lahat. Yun ang yung nangyari.
actually, the reason why I'm disclosing this is that although I am a student, I am experiencing the same situation that they are experiencing now. I live in Cavite, so I also experienced the effects of this typhoon. Pero as we have mentioned, we have to determine first the situations on the ground, and there are different LGUs are situated differently, the students are situated differently, and to call for an academic break for all students, regardless or not taking into consideration their situations, ay tingin ko dapat pinag-aaralan po yan. At ang dapat pag mag-aral po niyan ay yung mga higher education officials or yung mga authorities nila, such as the Board of Regents, in the case of UP, the Board of Regents, o kaya naman ay ang mga Board of Trustees or officials po ng ating mga higher education institutions.
Pero kasi, attorney, when you're talking about situations on the ground, these vary. I mean, because I can live in Cavite but study in UST. Or, a UP student can be living somewhere out in Bulacan but studying UP. So when you say, depending on the situation on the ground, you're really talking about different situations because it's different grounds, right? So how are
Even in the
you,
same school, they might have
how are you
different
to
situations.
decide, diba?
That is our point. That is our point. Ang point po namin is that the best siguro ang best authority to determine what should be the flexibility that should be afforded to their students should be the higher education institutions also, or the officials who can determine, who can conduct consultations, who can conduct conversation or communication with their students as to how flexibility or as to how they can incorporate flexibility in their academic learning.
Siguro kasi hindi lang po bagyo yung nasa lamesa. I mean, I think there are at least three calls on the table. One, of course, has to do with the typhoon and its effect on various schools in various regions in Luzon. That's one. The other one is the pandemic and how it has affected and how it's affecting students and teachers and how they're able to manage online learning. And the third, for example, in the case of UST and UP and Ateneo, you have activists calling for a boycott or a moratorium on going to school so long as the president is still there in Malacanang. And that's until 2022, I suppose. So you're looking at three different proposals from, I suppose, three different groups. Medyo labo-labo po.
Apo. First of all po, yung sa academic break because of the pandemic, actually ang first demand po nila for some students I won't say naman that majority of the students, but we recognize that there are some students who are requesting for an academic freeze as early as June. But yun na nga po, when we discussed the same, and then when we evaluated the situations based on their perception or misconception, that yun na nga po, that we are focused on online learning, and we have already corrected that misconception by saying that hindi po ang pag-open ng academic year, it's not about online learning. The students or the HEIs can also use or adopt yung tinatawag natin na yung flexible learning, na which can include asynchronous learning or asynchronous mode, use of modules, o kaya naman blended learning, use of online or offline resources. We also recognize that for some students, they are now demanding that, yun na nga, sa mga disaster-stricken area, that there should be an academic break. Some of the institutions, our point or our position is that actually some of the HEIs have already responded to the release. In the case of Ateneo, in the case of UST, they have already instituted an academic break for a period of time or for a specific
week,
period of time, to give flexibility to their students and in order to avoid or to give to them opportunities to respond or to recover due to the effects of this typhoon or this disaster.
Paano yan, yes. Paano yan, attorney, sa ibang lugar mukhang magkakatagalan yung flood eh. Baka matuloy na nga na pareho ng UP hanggang katapusan na ng taon yung freeze. Anong mangyayari dun sa kanilang school calendar? Do they have to cancel next year? Halimbawa yung summer? Wala nang summer break kapag nagkaganon.
Pwede, we have already afforded to them yung the leniency in extending their academic year. So, pwede po nilang ma-extend yung semester po nila so that they will not be pressed to start their second sem ng January. So, they can extend their academic year so as to end their semester, siguro kung hindi talaga kaya ng December, January, and then start siguro later pa for their second semester.
So so kung mag-freeze ngayon, ang mangyayari, mawawalan na ba sila ng mga summer break? Wala na nun, ano? I mean, ganun ang mangyayari ba? Magba-backlog, syempre. And are we seeing a scenario where there will be no more summer break or for that matter, summer classes? Paano pag bumagsak? Kung may ibabagsak, no? Kasi mukhang ngayon lahat na pinapasa. Ang swerte.
Some institutions po have adopted different modes of being flexible to their students. For instance, they are shortening their academic year, not necessarily extending but shortening their academic year. So what we're saying is that the HEIs or the officials, authorities of the HEIs are in a better position to determine what flexibility that should be afforded to their students.
Pero ano po kaya ang maaaring nawawala ngayon sa mga mag-aaral dahil na rin po dito sa napaka-makabago at sabihin na natin hindi naman fully conceptualized, fully prepared for, no, na uri ng klase. You begin to wonder, at least I do, what kind of luck we're actually experiencing without realizing it in terms of educating our kids.
Let me lay down a context, Ma'am Lucci. Some institutions have already commenced with their first semester in June, some July, some August, some October. So these institutions, or most of the institutions, are already halfway in their academic year.
Yeah.
So if we will stop now and we will impose an academic freeze, so what will happen to the learning outcomes of this of our students. When in fact there are opportunities that we may avail of. There are avenues that we may avail of so that they can continue learning.
Like what?
Yun nga po, pwede naman po asynchronous learning, use of offline resources, o kaya naman po ay extending the semester, o kaya naman shortening the semester, so long as the learning outcomes that are necessary in their program or course will still be there.
Wala ho kaya talagang pagkukulang na mararanasan, kumbaga, na in the future, we will look back to this time and say, kasi nangyari to, so itong mga batang to, nagkulang sa this or that. I'm just wondering, are you foreseeing that there's something that will probably not be learned, or maybe something negative that will be learned just because of this horrid situation that we are in?
We to answer your question, Ma'am Lucci, there are programs that are really skills based. May competencies talaga na necessary. Kaya naman ang instruction po namin or our direction is that for programs or courses that are skills based, o kaya naman may necessary talaga na laboratory, may necessary may necessary component talaga ang OJT, they may do it in the second semester. Hopefully in situations will be better. So for the first sem, we have emphasized, or we have siguro discussed with our HDIs, to our regional offices, to focus more on the lecture part or yung discussion na part.
Theory.
Theory. So as to ensure one, na yung mga skills or competencies necessary would still be there, but it will be done at the latter part of the semester or of the academic year.
I see.
Just to follow up on Lucci's question, of course po, iba pa rin yung
Face to face.
yung going to school and learning face to face theory. Iba pa rin yun doon sa learning it using the internet, using a phone or using a laptop. I'm wondering lang, of course, it's through no fault of the
Yes,
DepEd or CHED na this has happened, because it is a pandemic. Yun lang kasi, I suppose the worry of some people is that in future semesters or in future years, where you have courses that are built on the previous year's course, for example, this year's course, what if this year's learnings are not well grounded or not well built, and the next year's courses will have to stand on those? I suppose that would be a valid worry from the end of both teachers and students and parents.
Totoo naman po that there are many challenges brought about by this pandemic, especially in terms of learning. We recognize that even yung very basic or foundation of learning, na kailangan din po natin ng tulong from our faculty or from our teachers, sila din po kailangan din po nila ng training. Kasi otherwise, they will not be able to teach effectively their students. Kaya nga po, it's important, one of the important areas po talaga, so that, or in order to ensure that the students will really capture the learning outcomes necessary in their programs or courses, is that to train our faculty members so that they can teach our students effectively based on this another modality or different kind of modality of teaching. There's marami pong dapat na kumbaga i-improve, o kaya naman maraming dapat din po na incorporate. For instance, yung simpleng paggawa lang po ng module, it's not a simple way or mode of just taking a video and then letting it be shown to our students. Hindi po siya ganun kasi otherwise hindi mo pa rin sigurado kung our students are learning. So kaya necessary po talaga na merong training to our faculty members so that they will learn also how to capture or how to deal or to teach our students effectively in this kind of modality.
Attorney, balik ko lang ng konti dun sa Typhoon, kasi I read na yung government has a program to build the